Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, a lot, and I mean a lot to talk about today. Some incredible new developments regarding Kamala Harris's VP pick, Tim Walz. We're going to get into all of that. But first, ay. So, the left now, the Harris campaign, the media, the Democrats, enraged is not the word. It's just not the word. They are going absolutely apoplectic following Monday night's historic interview, really, and a freewheeling dialogue between Elon Musk and, of course, former president and, God willing, future president Donald J. Trump on X. It garnered record views. Nearly 1 billion combined views on X. It shattered all records. And now we're finding out, and this is why the Democrats are afraid, that 3/4 of everyone listening, actually 77% to be technical, people under the age of 34 and younger. So it really targeted and really fascinated younger voters and the younger demographic. And so now the Democrats are crying foul. So on two fronts now, they're going after Elon and they're going after Donald Trump. First, Kamala Harris released a statement now saying that the Federal Elections Commission, the FEC, should now target Elon Musk and target Donald Trump. Why? Because by going on X and giving an interview with Elon, this was an in-kind contribution by Elon Musk to Donald J. Trump. I.e., I kid you not, they're claiming now it was a sort of a federal campaign contribution worth millions and millions and millions of dollars in free advertising, and that now they need to be investigated and they need to be looked at and they need to be punished. On the second front, the United Auto Workers, the leadership of the UAW, not the rank and file, but the scumbag left-wing leadership directly tied to the Democratic Party, is now going to take Elon and Trump to court. In fact, they have filed federal labor charges against both Trump and Elon, saying that their groundbreaking interview on X, I swear to you, violated the National Labor Relations Act. How, you may say, Jeff, two guys shooting the breeze on a platform, talking about issues, inflation, the economy, energy, the border, foreign policy. I mean, it was 2 hours, wide-ranging interview. How the hell does this violate the National Labor Relations Act? Because in one part of the discussion, and this is the part now that the media has seized on, especially MSNBC and the far left, they talked about the ability of owners to fire workers. As you know, Trump wants to cut the size of the massive bloated federal bureaucracy and the massive bloated federal government. And so they had a discussion at one point where Trump said, you know, I'd love to have you on this government efficiency commission. This commission to recommend how we're going to cut and slash the federal workforce, all of these bureaucrats who are making ridiculous salaries in Washington, D.C., gold-plated pensions, gold-plated health care, which is draining and sucking the budget and the taxpayers of this great country. And so, and at the end, they had a bit more of a conversation where, if you remember, when Elon was about to buy then Twitter, now X, but at the time Twitter, there was massive resistance within the company by many of the left-wing employees. Many of the lefties at Twitter couldn't stand Elon. Why? Because he advocates free speech. And the old Twitter guard, the old left-wing guard, didn't want free speech on Twitter. Remember, they were censoring. They were canceling. They were suppressing conservative voices, whether it was on COVID or the Biden laptop, or you can run issue after issue after issue. And so they said, we don't want Elon to buy the company. And if he does, we're going to go on strike. Well, Elon bought the company and he fired 80% of the workforce. And Trump at one point said, that's exactly how you do it. He goes, I admire you for what you did. This is how you clean house. So, anyway, here's exactly what Trump said to Elon Musk. Quote, I mean, I look at what you do. You walk in, you say, you want to quit? They go on strike. I won't mention the name of the company, but they go on strike. And you say, that's okay. You're all gone. You're all gone. So every one of you is gone. Now, what he was talking about was obviously this massive resistance by Twitter employees to being bought over by Elon, and then saying, well, okay, we're just not going to work, or we're going to protest and we're going to strike, or we're going to try to shut the company down or make it very difficult to operate the company. And Elon said, hey, you're not happy here? Out the door. And he laid off numerous employees, which, by the way, is his right. He bought the company. He spent billions of his own dollars to purchase Twitter, now X. You don't like it there? You don't want to work there? There's the door. Now, from this, the United Auto Workers, listen to this, is now going to take them to court. So, according now to a statement released by the United Auto Workers, this is what they said. Under federal law, workers cannot be fired for going on strike, and threatening to do so is illegal under the National Labor Relations Act. And so, according now to the UAW president, this Democrat hack, Sean Fain, he says, well, they were threatening to potentially fire and intimidate workers who stand up for themselves by engaging in strikes or protected concerted activity. And he said, just even talking about potentially firing somebody is a violation of the law. They're talking about the illegal firing of striking workers. And so, because of this, quote, they have now violated the National Labor Relations Act. According to the UAW, under federal law, workers cannot be fired for going on strike, and threatening to do so is illegal under the National Labor Relations Act. I mean, this is unbelievable. So now you can't even talk about what? We can't fire federal bureaucrats? If you oppose the takeover of a company by a guy who wants to take it in a different direction, i.e. free speech, giving conservatives an equal voice, having different points of view represented, say on COVID-19, if you oppose the lockdowns, or I could go on and on. Or you thought, hey, I'm sorry. No, the Hunter Biden laptop wasn't Russian disinformation. It was actually Hunter's laptop. And you mean you can actually say that on X? No. No, we're not going to work for you. And if need be, we're going to go on strike. And he says, you know what, guys? You're gone. You're gone. You don't buy into my vision of the company? There's the door. And now, because they simply discussed this, now you want to send them to court and have them punished and fined? The reason why the UAW is freaking out, the reason why Kamala Harris is freaking out, the reason why the media and the Democrats went absolutely crazy is because it was a wide-ranging interview viewed by countless people, and especially the most coveted demographic among Democrats, younger voters. And they fear that people will agree with Trump and Elon. You know, no one is stopping Kamala Harris from going on X and doing an interview with Elon Musk. He invited her. She refused him. So what is Trump supposed to do? Not speak because she refuses to speak? So she won't do interviews because they have, the basement strategy. Hide her in the basement. So she won't go on X. So because she won't go on X, now Trump shouldn't go on X? Because now that's a quote-unquote in-kind contribution? Pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. What this now shows, again, beyond the shadow of a doubt, is that liberals, Democrats, and the media have now abandoned any support for freedom of speech. They want censorship, and they want it bad. 617-266-6868 is the number. The text line already is, it's getting warmed up. You can text us 70470, 70470. This is from 917. Jeff, one of the worst things ever was unionizing federal workers. They have used the law to entrench people who stay in their positions for decades and basically don't do anything. Our government has become grossly bloated. It's time to change the law. And yes, it's time to start cutting the massive bureaucracy. Well, you're completely right, 917. 1,000% correct. Okay, what are we now? We're running $1 trillion deficits every single year. The national debt now is, what is it, $37 trillion? I mean, we're literally going bankrupt. This is not even in dispute. Not even in dispute. We are now spending more on interest payments, just the interest on financing the debt. I'm not talking the debt itself, just the interest payments, than anything else in the entire budget. More than defense, the whole military budget. We spend more on interest payments than the entire military budget. More than Social Security, more than Medicare, I don't care, pick your program. So, yeah, do we have to start cutting the federal government and the bureaucracy? You better believe it. Now, that's in many ways, what Trump and Elon were talking about. And that's why Trump said, hey, look, you're an efficiency expert. I mean, you know how to make a well-oiled organization and to get rid of waste and to get rid of fat and to get rid of people who aren't very productive or don't want to work there or whatever. They're just deadwood, as they say. So that's why Elon said, sure, you want me on this commission to, make recommendations on how to make the government and the bureaucracy leaner and meaner and much more efficient and much more affordable. I'm willing to do it. So you can't even talk about firing people in the federal bureaucracy now. Or else you're going to get sued by the United Auto Workers. Or if you're poor Donald Trump, because Kamala Harris won't do an interview with anybody. By the way, including Time Magazine. Here they have this ridiculously glowing cover. I've never seen her look so good. Her moment. As it says on the cover, her moment. And she even refused their request to do an interview. And it's a puff piece. It's the mother of all softball interviews. She's petrified if she opens her mouth. That could get her in trouble because she's frankly so stupid and so radical. So she won't even do an interview to publications that are worshiping her and glorifying her. So what is Trump supposed to do? Okay, well, if she can't do interviews, if she's afraid to do interviews, I'm just going to sit around and do nothing? So what? Elon Musk says, I want Trump, I want Kamala. I want to interview you. Kamala says no way, because she knows Elon's going to ask her some tough questions. Trump says, go ahead, ask me any questions you want. He comes on over 2 hours. And that's with the European Union threatening Elon, saying, you go ahead with this interview, you don't censor Trump, we're going to come after you and we're going to destroy your entire business. That's what the Biden White House saying, you go ahead with this interview and we're going to come after you with everything we've got. We're going to unleash the IRS. We're going to unleash regulators, federal investigators. We're going to leave no stone unturned. We're coming after you. How dare you give Trump a platform? So Kamala doesn't want to do an interview, and now it's an in-kind contribution if Trump does. So just because you don't want to speak, what, Trump can't speak? You were offered, and the offer, by the way, still stands. You could have 2 hours with Elon Musk. You won't do it? Well, that's your business. That's on you. Now you want to go and blame Trump and unleash the Federal Election Commission and claim that there was some kind of an illegal campaign finance violation for doing a freaking interview? It is now becoming more than glaringly obvious. These are totalitarian thugs. That's what they are. They're pushing now censorship, aggressive censorship. They're talking now openly about arresting political opponents. They're talking now about crushing and suppressing diverse points of view in the name of battling, quote unquote, misinformation and disinformation. Tim Waltz, and I'm going to get to him later, I promise. Okay? The Marxist from Minnesota, Tampon Tim, openly said just a couple of years ago, at the height of the COVID paranoia, that we are at war with the First Amendment. We are at war with the Constitution and freedom of speech. As he put it, hate speech is not protected speech. Misinformation, disinformation is not protected speech. And do you know who gets to decide what's misinformation and disinformation? You guessed it. The left, the Democrats, the corrupt fake news media. In other words, we don't want different points of view. We don't want you to listen to Trump. We don't want you to listen to anybody critical of this destructive radical regime in power and their naked attempt now to try to install this Marxist from San Francisco, Commie Kamala, into the White House. So, my question to you, and I want to go right to the phone lines after this short break. Did Trump do anything wrong, anything illegal in doing this interview with Elon Musk? And is the left now openly against free speech? 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, this is from 508. You can text us 70470, 70470, 508. Jeff. So let me get this straight. Trump was not supposed to do an interview with Elon just because Kamala didn't want to? Yes. I mean, this is unbelievable. This is unbelievable. So her campaign now is furious, and they're saying that this is an in-kind contribution because Trump, it was such a success. And so many people, about, what is it, nearly 1 billion views, if you count in all the other accounts that sort of looked into that joined the entire interview on X. And apparently this thing went global. I mean, it shattered records all over the world. People wanted to hear what these two men had to say. And as Elon said repeatedly, I invited Kamala Harris. She didn't want to come on. She refused to come on. The invitation is still open. I gave 2 hours to Trump. I will give 2 full hours to Kamala Harris. What's the problem? I'll tell you what the problem is. People got to hear Donald Trump unplugged, unfiltered. And what they saw is not the caricature that the propaganda media, and that's what it is, it's propaganda that people have been getting and swallowing now for I don't know how many years. They saw a moderate, they saw a patriot, they saw someone who cares deeply about the problems of this country and the problems of the world. And they said on issue after issue, his solutions make a lot of sense. And I think what stunned a lot of people was a moderate Democrat, lifelong Democrat like Elon, not only endorsed Trump, not only urged all of his supporters to back Trump, but said, frankly, on most issues, he and Trump are simpatico. He agrees with Trump. So what you're seeing now is almost a centrist coalition, a middle American coalition developing right in front of our eyes. And look, what they feared the most is Trump telling people inflation is killing us. I brought it down to 1% during my presidency. I can do it again. I can bring all of the manufacturing jobs that they've outsourced. I can bring them back. I can stop this massive invasion at the border. And not just to provide safety and security to the American people, which is paramount, but also they are stealing jobs from Americans. They are driving down wages of working middle-class families. I am here to defend the besieged working middle class. And people are like, wow. Wow. I never looked at it that way. And that's now, and Trump went on saying, hey, look, I want clean air. I want clean water. You think I'm against electric vehicles? No, I'm not saying this to stroke Elon's ego. If the market will sustain it, go ahead. But I want it to be an American EV revolution in America. And don't force it on people. Don't drive up gas to $6, $7, $8, $10 a gallon to force people to give up gas-powered cars and force them to buy, a $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 electric vehicle. Do it naturally. Do it organically. Phase it in. Let the market do it. And then the big one, and then I'm going to go right to the phone lines. He said, gas is going to drop to $2 a gallon. We're going to drill like we've never drilled before. And when oil and gas goes down substantially, it brings down the cost of everything else substantially. I have a plan to save this country. I did it already. I can do it again. And apparently that message is resonating now with young voters because the overwhelming number of people who listened to that interview were under the age of 34. Hence the panic now in the media, among Democrats, and especially in the Harris-Walz campaign. Thomas in Florida. You're going to kick us off, Thomas. Thanks for holding, Thomas, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. It's great to hear you again. I've been following you for 10 years or so.
Thank you. Thank you, Thomas.
The thing I wanted to say, it's a short little speech here, but if you remember, I don't know if you remember, but when Reagan was in office, he fired the air traffic controllers.
Yes.
And that was federal. So they can do that. Do you agree?
Oh, of course they can. No, they're just in a panic. No, Thomas, they're in a panic because Trump does what he says. And Elon, whatever you think of Elon Musk, when Elon Musk says he's going to do something, he does it. So the two of them saying, hey, let's team up and let's slash that bloated, gargantuan federal bureaucracy. All of these fat cat bureaucrats, their days are numbered. We're going to start cutting and we're going to start saving taxpayers a lot of money. And now the swamp is freaking out. That's what they're really worried about, Thomas. Now they got to take him to court. Now they're going to sue him. Now they want the FEC breathing down their necks. They want the National Labor Relations Board breathing down their necks. So what? In America now, you can't even talk about firing people anymore? But really, what is this? So what is this? A communist regime? Because under communism, literally, nobody got fired. You got shot. You got jailed. You got disappeared. You were sent to a gulag. But other than that, you never lost your job. Thomas, final word to you, my friend.
Okay, yeah. Like I said, Reagan took care of that problem. Didn't Sean Fain, wasn't he at the RNC, or was that somebody else?
No, that was somebody else. No, that wasn't Sean Fain.
Okay, so Sean Fain and that federal agency needs to be reined in.
Well, he's the head of the United Auto Workers and the top guy. And look, he's swimming in Democrat money. He's a Democrat hack through and through. He's another far leftist. And look, he's panicking. He's panicking now because Harris is going to go down. That's their big fear, that this interview is going to propel Trump. And we'll see if he gets a massive bump. I think he will. With that kind of listenership, those kind of viewers, when you're talking nearly 1 billion views. Now, I know it wasn't just in America. It's around the world. I get it. But still, that's a lot of people listening. That's a lot of eyeballs and a lot of ears. And look, they made a lot of sense. They made a lot of sense. And I really urge people, listen to the conversation between the two of them. You're going to agree with, if not 100%, like 98, 99% of what they say. And it's so reasonable. It's just common sense. Common sense. And in a way, it's very heartening because you say, we could really solve our problems. Like, if we could just get the media out of the way and the swamp and the corruption out of the way and this, fanatical Democratic Party, if we could just get it out of the way, we could solve our country's problems. I mean, really, I'm not saying, in 2 seconds, but really in 4 years, they could really restore so much of this country. And I think that's why many young people are really now drawn to that interview, because they're saying, hey, we could actually have a future again. And that's not what the Democrats want people to know. They want people to hear and know that the only future they have is through the Democratic Party. Through handouts, through government checks, through them dictating and controlling their lives. CJ in Boston. Thank you for holding, CJ, and welcome.
And thank you for taking the call, Jeff. I mean, now it has come down to free speech. Get rid of free speech. If Elon Musk had any stones, he would have an interview with Donald Trump every week up until the election to let people become aware of what's going on in this country. You mentioned the president of the United Auto Workers, Sean Fain. This guy is really a lowlife. The dirty little secret is the electric vehicles are not being sold. Just one example, Ford loses more than $100,000 on each EV that they produce. Okay? They're estimated to lose $5.5 billion Model E division in 2024.
CJ, I'm up against it. Please hang on. We're going to go right back to CJ. Okay, I've never seen anything like this. The media absolutely in full panic. They're demanding now that there be massive sanctions and penalties imposed on Elon Musk for daring to interview Donald Trump. And now you have the White House, you have the Harris campaign saying that this was a Federal Elections Commission violation, a campaign finance violation. They want the FEC to now investigate, saying it was an in-kind contribution. You have the United Auto Workers now saying they're going to take this all the way to court. They want to file federal labor charges against Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Why? Because they dare talk about firing people. Whether it's when Elon bought up Twitter or should Trump win in November, that they want to start firing a lot of these, let's put it this way, useless federal bureaucrats. Many of them with huge benefits that we pay for the rest of their lives, very lucrative six-figure salaries. And Trump is saying, if we're going to get our budget back in order, if we're going to start being fiscally responsible, the size of the federal government, the scope is way too big. We're going to have to start cutting out the fat, which means, yes, you're going to have to start firing federal employees. Let's go right back to CJ in Boston. By the way, this is now a crime to even discuss this. You can't make this stuff up. Let's go back to CJ in Boston. CJ, you were saying now the left is coming for freedom of speech. It's now full-blown totalitarianism. They try to impose this EV and these electric cars on all Americans, mandate it, force it. No one wants to buy it. And now these companies, these auto companies, are in serious trouble. Please pick up where you left off, CJ.
Yes, as I was saying, Ford is estimated to lose $5.5 billion in 2024 on these EV vehicles. Hertz Rent-A-Car just got rid of thousands of these electric vehicles that nobody wants to rent. And the dirty little secret is the federal government are giving incentives to states, cities, and municipalities in order to buy these. We had an incident on Route 93 about a year or so ago where it took 28,000 gallons to extinguish one of these EVs. So you can imagine what's going to happen when one of these school buses go up or one of these public school transit buses go up that they've recently purchased. So I'd like to ask Sean Fain, as the president of the United Auto Workers, it is you and the executive board that is endorsing Harris. Okay? Is it against the law to speak for 400,000 United Auto Workers? Did you take a vote of those people, or is this your own opinion? Is the executive board allowed to speak for 400,000 members who, in good sense, those members are not going to vote for Harris, no matter how much of an endorsement? And the reason being is they'll all be out of jobs. If they push for these electric vehicles and force people to get these electric vehicles, the only people that are going to profit by this is China, because they won't be able to afford to make them here in the United States of America. So the unions account for 10% of the labor force in America today, and that is why that they're going after these unions. They go after AFSCME, they go after the teachers' unions. They make it appear that they have all these people behind them, but they're only 10% of the workforce. Please let me get to this Tim Walsh, this phony soldier, this master sergeant who says that he retired as a command sergeant major. Everyone in America should be up in arms over this. And DJ Vance, don't let this go. I would ask that every veteran contact Veteran Services, the Office of Inspector General, and have this guy charged. He needs to be charged with the crime of stolen valor. He is a disgrace to every man and woman who's ever served in the armed forces. He is walking over the graves of those men and women who have defended this country in time of war. Jeff, something needs to be done, and they need to stay on this man. He not only stated he's used weapons of war when he was in war. This guy claimed he was in Afghanistan.
No, you're dead on. CJ, you're dead on. Look, and CJ, I know you're a veteran and you served in Vietnam and you literally put your life on the line for this country. And I know how many veterans share exactly your views and your feelings and your sentiments. It is beyond disgusting. It's vile. This guy's vile. Now, people are, now he's coming out saying, well, why are you attacking my service? No one's attacking your service. Really. To me, 24 years in the National Guard is something to be immensely proud of. What I'm attacking, what you're attacking, what we're attacking is his lies about his service. He never served in a war zone. He never was in Afghanistan. He never was in Iraq. And yet he repeatedly claimed again and again that this guy served in Iraq, he served in Afghanistan, he was in firefight. He's Rambo. He's he's a white-haired, bald-headed Rambo. That's his shtick. Well, I'm sorry, that's a monstrous lie. It's stolen valor. But CJ, it's not just that it's stolen valor, and I agree with you. To me, the part that I find unforgivable is that when his unit was called to go to Iraq, to be deployed, he deserted. He betrayed his unit. He betrayed his colleagues. He betrayed the men and women under his command. And to me, that's, that to me, there's nothing worse than that. They went, he didn't. And that's when he conveniently retired, and he lied about the reasons why he had to retire. He goes, well, I was running for office, so because I had to run for office, I couldn't serve. No, you could still serve. Look at Tulsi Gabbard. No, you used it as a convenient excuse. And let me just say one last thing, CJ, and you can look this up. On the record, he openly brags, on the record, that he got more out of the military, his words, than the military ever got out of him. So basically, he's admitting, I used them. I used them for all that they were worth. And then when I was done, blank you. Now, that's the kind of guy Tim Walz is. Scumbag through and through. Thank you for that call, CJ. John in Dunstable. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Boy, you got me burning over that maggot. And I want Jeff. I am so mad about that. I know it's off topic, a little bit, but I am so mad about that. I talked to Larry's cousin. He was out in Fort Devon stationed out there, and I,
John, I got to tell you, and he's arrogant. And thank you for that call, John. He's arrogant. He thinks he's going to get away with this. This is what I find incredible. So I hope JD Vance don't let this go. And I understand many of you disagree. You go, Jeff, most people aren't connected to the military. Most people don't serve in the military. Most people don't relate to this issue. I disagree. To me, this is about character. This is about the kind of person he is. And what he did, you just don't do. You just don't do. It is the ultimate form of betrayal. And this is, if he's willing to do that, think about it. If this is what he's willing to do to the people of his unit, to the people that he swore to defend and protect, the people under his command, what do you think he's going to do to you and me? And it's not even a hypothetical. Ask the people of Minneapolis. Ask the people of Minnesota what he's done to them for the last 6 years. He will sell us down the river without even batting an eye. Larry in Leominster. Thanks for holding, Larry, and welcome.
Jeff, how are you, sir?
Good. How are you, Larry?
Good. Before I get to the discussion, I want to give a shout out to a fan of yours, fellow veteran, Tom. Tom had a slip with some slick leather shoes, fell down some stairs and broke his ankle. He's in recovery, wishing him well. Him and his wife are big fans of yours, Jeff. So I just want to get that out of the way.
Oh, thank you, Larry. I hope they make a quick and speedy recovery. I really do.
Got it. And I was going to talk about the whole debacle with the left getting upset over Trump and Elon.
And Elon.
But because the last two guys brought up Tim Walz, what's making me madder as the days go by is now in the media is trying to defend him, saying, oh, he misspoke, right? He didn't misspeak. When he got out, here's a great example of how he lied. He made challenge coins. Are you familiar with a challenge coin?
Not really. No, Larry.
Okay, so for your audience, the challenge coins, a lot of military guys carry them, a lot of veterans carry them. I very proudly carry a one that's the Medal of Honor recipient, right? You can make stuff that's your background, your personality. So Tim Walz made one after he was in Congress. This is the important part. And on this coin, he put the insignia of the E9, the commanding sergeant major, right? So he knowingly advertised after he got out that he retired as an E9. So I'm tired of hearing this misspoke crap. You and I had a discussion one time in private. You knew I was in the service. You knew I was over in Desert Storm. And you had referred to me a couple of times mistakenly as a combat veteran. I quietly had to correct you.
No, you're right. No, you're right. Larry, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but no, it's true. I mistakenly said you were a combat veteran, and you were immediately, you said, no, Jeff, that's not true. I'm like, what? I'm sorry. No, I never saw combat. I'm like, okay. Ooh, I'm sorry. Okay. I mean, you were adamant, Larry. Like I don't think you waited even a second. It was like, no, you have to correct that, Jeff. You have to do it now. I served, yes, but I never saw combat. Please keep going, Larry. I remember that to this day. And I thought it was extremely honorable on your part. But it was your reaction. It was almost like, hey, look, I'm not going to take credit. I'm not. Listen, people serve, people die. I never saw combat. And you were adamant. Please keep going, Larry.
Oh, no, that's fair. That's exactly the point I was trying to make, and I appreciate you reiterating that. And it's the audience would never have known, right? But by me, if I had just not even said anything, I didn't even go. I'm not even saying that I went, yeah, Jeff, that's great, I did that. Just me, if I had stayed silent, that is stolen valor. That's what people need to understand. And the guys are mistaken on the vets aren't going to, the country's not going to take this seriously. Look at John Kerry. The Swift boats pretty much destroyed his, it wasn't the only thing. He was an absolute idiot, but that was one of those key points that destroyed his candidacy. Same with Dukakis back in '88 when they put that idiot on the tank with a little leather cap on and thought that would make him look tough. The military society does not take that stuff funny at all. They take stolen valor very seriously.
Oh, Larry, look, I'm going to be brutally honest with you. I think it's one of the worst things as a human being you can possibly do. Really, I mean, there's murder, there's rape, there's, of course. But man, oh man, to claim that you fought in a war, that you saw combat when you didn't. But to me, this is what adds insult to injury, Larry, is that you had the chance to go serve and fight for your country. Remember, he signed up for the National Guard. So he's a volunteer. It's all voluntary on his part. And he's got people underneath his command. And they get sent to be deployed. And he abandons them. He's a traitor. He betrayed them. And said, no, you guys go. I'm not going. You go. I'm not going. And then you try to pass yourself off as some kind of a freaking war hero. It's beyond disgusting. Larry, I want to bring it full circle because to me, one of the things I always say this, when I do the annual event for Disabled Veterans of America, and everything I do for disabled vets, I always say this because it's from the heart, because it's true. I'm behind this microphone because of the sacrifices that you and your fellow vets have made. Because it's true. Meaning, I have freedom of speech. I have freedom of expression. I have the ability to voice my point of view. And for many of you in this audience, I know, you share many of my points of view. So basically, you're allowing so many people to have their views expressed on the air because you were willing to put your life on the line for us. And now, to me, as a veteran, I've got to ask you, to see the left, to see the Democrats, to see the White House, to see Kamala Harris and this clown, Tim Walz, openly now turn on freedom of speech and to now say, no. there is no such thing as freedom of speech anymore. Trump, it's hate speech, misinformation, disinformation. You're a conservative, you're MAGA, you dissent, you disagree with the regime, or you disagree with the official narrative, then you know what? You have every right to be censored and silenced. How does that make you feel as a veteran, that one of the fundamental values and principles you put your life on the line to defend is now being jettisoned and abandoned by the left?
Well, Jeff, that's why I thank God we still have the Second Amendment. It's an insult, obviously, but I look at, and it should be a warning shot, no pun intended, across the bow that UK took away all gun rights, and now they're jailing people for speech violation. That should be a warning to every red-blooded American in this country. You don't think the left wants to do that to us too? What's stopping them? We have the Second Amendment. That's why they're fighting so hard to abolish the Second Amendment and get rid of guns. They cannot control the masses if the masses are properly armed. And that's what the scary part is. People are asleep. They need to wake up. You got, less than 90 days now?
Larry, before I let you go, how do you feel about the election? You're right. We're less than 90 days. The media now is doing everything they can to carry Kamala Harris to the finish line. She's now running a content-free campaign. Literally, Larry, don't take my word for it. Go on her official campaign website. There's no positions. It's her, Tim Walz, their bio, where you can donate, and where you can buy some of their merchandise. Like really, sophomoric merch. And that's it. So it's merch, donate, and bios. So they're running a purely vacuous, content-free campaign. And the media is not calling them out. The media doesn't want to press them, do interviews with them. They're going to let them hide in the basement. Really, as someone put it, I believe it was Investors Business Daily, they're taking the Nancy Pelosi approach to Obamacare and applying it now to the campaign. You have to pass the bill to see what's in it. Well, you have to put Kamala in the White House to see what she's going to do. That's now the approach of their campaign, and that's what the media now is trying to help with. That's their job. Do you think they can pull it off, Larry?
Let me answer with a question and a comment. My question is for you in the audience. If Trump's policies are so radical and going to destroy the country, why is she stealing each and every one of them? There's your first question. It's rhetorical. Comment. This worked for Biden only because of COVID, and the excuse is, well, don't look at Donald Trump. He got COVID during the 2020 election. We can't risk it with our candidate. We're going to hide him. That's not working here. And that ties back to this whole start of this whole show. Why are they so upset that Trump and Elon had that conversation? You saw 1 billion people viewed that. Everyone on her team, they say she's scared because they're going to see what an idiot she is when she speaks. That's not the only problem, Jeff. The other problem is they know that they wouldn't get a 1% of that audience to watch. That's what scares them too. No one's going to watch it.
That's a great point, Larry. I didn't even think of that. Larry, as always, thank you very much for that call. No, I didn't even think of that. No, that's true. Look, I say Elon Trump. Yeah, Jeff, I want to listen, right? Is that your automatic reaction? I mean, whether you can, whether you have the time, that's another matter. But right away, if I say, hey, Elon's going to interview Trump. Oh, wow. Yeah. I go Elon Kamala. And you're like, what? Listen to her give me another word salad? Unburdened by what has been? The significance of the passage of time is that the passage of time is significant. I mean, that's what you're going to get for 2 hours. And so, Larry, you're complete. Who would listen? Who would want to listen? And you're right. It would be a public relations nightmare. Trump gets about 1 billion views. You're lucky. She'd be lucky if she got 5% of that. Okay, is freedom of speech in serious danger? And has the left declared war on free speech? Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, 617-266-6868 is the number. All right, text line, it's, it's moving today, let me tell you. Okay, you can text us 70470. This is from 212. Jeff, you are completely correct. In fact, there are new numbers in 77% of the 27 million people here in America that tuned in to Trump's space with Elon Musk were younger than 34 years old. This is why the mainstream media is in meltdown mode. Bingo. I mean, that's why. Censor him, shut him down. Now it's fine him, punish him, sick the FEC on Elon. It's an in-kind contribution. Now the United Auto Workers, violation of the National Labor Relations Act. Just throw the book at him because he may win now. Now he's peeling away. Trump is peeling away key Democrat voting blocks. All right. I want to read to you. It's a bit of a longer text, but it really hits the nail on the head. This is from 202. Jeff, Kamala Harris was offered to have an interview with Elon Musk on X. She declined. She was offered to have an interview with her Time magazine cover story. She declined. In fact, she refuses to sit down for an interview with any of the major news organizations, even though they are immensely friendly to her and they're all voting for her. She refused to speak at the Bitcoin conference. She even refused to come to the National Association for Black Journalists event. She travels with 14 members of the press, but has yet to actually answer one question without a teleprompter. It's been almost a month since she announced she was running for president, and all we have heard is canned speeches that she repeats over and over again that are read directly from a teleprompter. And the only policy she has come up with so far is the one that she stole from Donald Trump, i.e. eliminating taxes on tips. This is not a serious person or a serious candidate. Even Joe Biden, when they hid him in his basement, did more media interviews and spoke to the country more often than Kamala Harris. Bingo. I mean, bingo. Really, bingo. She's not a serious candidate. She's not a serious person. You know it. I know it. Everyone knows it. And to me, the most repulsive thing of all is that the media knows it as well. She's a complete airhead and stoner. She's an empty suit. You don't get more vacuous than Kamala Harris. And just like they carried Joe Biden with his dementia and his mental decline all the way over the finish line, they think they can do it again. Now, before I get to the phone lines, you have to hear this in their own words, because this is now what we're up against. This is the left. This is what's happening, not just in the United States. Remember, Great Britain, the land of the Magna Carta, the land where free speech and so many of our fundamental liberties and freedoms were born. Well, that was then. This is now. So, as you know, there have been riots, anti-migrant riots, anti-immigration riots breaking out all over the country. Now you have Muslim gangs, counter-protests, counter-riots, and in over 100 cities, there is bloodshed, violence on the streets, chaos. The country is unraveling in Great Britain. And so to counter this, the police in particular are going after the anti-immigrant, those who are on the side of the anti-immigrant groups. They're not touching Muslims. They're not touching those that attack, British citizens who side with the anti-migrant forces. No. It's all one way. The so-called far right. London's Metropolitan Police Chief, and this was approved by the British government itself, the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, who now says, by the way, freedom of speech no longer exists. He is openly against freedom of speech. They've now come out and said they're not just going to be cracking down on British citizens. I'm not talking about rioting or destroying property or attacking people, simply for posting on social media commentary that goes against the official narrative on riots in the UK, but they're going to go after American citizens as well. Here now, this is what Metropolitan Police Commissioner Sir Mark Rowley, this is what Sir Mark told Sky News. Quote, "We will throw the full force of the law at people. And whether you're in this country committing crimes on the streets or committing crimes from further afield online, we will come after you." And then he goes on to say, in particular, that just because you're an American citizen, and in particular, he singles out Elon Musk. How much time left, Mike? Okay, 10 seconds. I'm going to read to you exactly now what the police commissioner of London, backed by the Prime Minister, said about Elon and American citizens next. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, so this is what our future is going to hold. And I'm telling you, it's coming if Kamala Harris and Tim Walz win, because Tim Walz has literally said he supports exactly what's taking place right now in the United Kingdom. So, I'm just going by what the British media is reporting, and now repeated by the New York Post, the Wall Street Journal, and many others. So, London's police commissioner, Sir Mark Rowley, was asked by Britain's Sky News, what about people like Elon Musk? Elon Musk went on X and said the obvious. You flood a country like Great Britain with massive, unlimited third world immigration for decades and decades and decades without ever asking the people of Great Britain whether they even want this. And the backlash is going to be inevitable. Not that he supports the riots, not that he supports violence, but he's saying, what did you think was going to happen? People were eventually going to blow. And so he came out and said that Britain is now on the verge of civil war with riots in over 100 cities. Pro and counter rioters, pro and counter demonstrators. I don't know what else you call it. You have roving Muslim gangs with knives and 2x4s, stabbing and beating other groups, these anti-migrant rioters or protesters who are waving the Union Jack and the flag of St. George, the white and red cross flag of England. And they're literally street battles. Hotels are being torched. Shelters are being torched. Homes are being torched. People are being stabbed and killed on the streets. Cars are being torched. Entire neighborhoods are going up in flames. The country is unraveling in front of our eyes. Here is what Sir Mark Rowley said, quote, he said that high-profile figures have been, quote-unquote, whipping up the hatred. And that the quote-unquote, the likes of Elon Musk have been getting involved. And then the reporter then says, well, what are you going to do with people like Elon Musk, who you claim are whipping up hatred. Quote, what are you going to do about this? This was Rowley's response. Being a keyboard warrior does not make you safe from the law. You can be guilty of offenses of incitement, of stirring up racial hatred. There are numerous terrorist offenses regarding the publishing of material. All of those offenses are in play. If people are provoking hatred and violence on the streets, and we will come after those individuals just as we will physically confront on the streets the thugs and the yobs who are causing the problems for communities. And so apparently then, both Prime Minister Sir Care, what is everybody there is a sir now? Every time I read an article, I mean, everybody gets knighted now. Everybody's a sir. I mean, it's unbelievable. But anyway, they love their titles, huh? Oh, do they love their titles? Anyway, Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer and now this commissioner have said that they're going to come after not just British citizens, but American citizens. Not just American citizens living in Britain. But literally now they're saying, if we have to, we're going to demand that they be extradited from the United States, and we're going to have them sent to Britain where they're going to be tried and put in jail. They're gunning after Elon and others. Now, if you think this is all just talk, so far, I'm just going by the British media, over 1,000 people in Britain have been arrested and are going to be sent to prison for inciting hatred, terrorism, incitement, simply for posting stuff on social media. And a lot of it, believe it or not, they're just showing video of the riots. And in particular, video of, say, roving Muslim gangs terrorizing white working class communities. So to just show what's happening is now a form of incitement and a form of stirring up racial hatred. You can't make this up. In other words, free speech is verboten. Free speech, hate speech, according to them, just by going online, can now land you years in prison. And as they're openly saying in Great Britain, is this the UK or is this the USSR? Is this Great Britain or is this the Soviet Union? Now, this is in the land, this is not some third world banana republic. This is in the land of the Magna Carta. This is in the land of common law. This is in the land of Shakespeare. This is in the land that stood up to the Nazis when no one else would. If it can happen in Britain, it can happen anywhere. And as Larry in Leominster rightly said, what is the fundamental difference between the United States and Great Britain? Yes, we have a written constitution. God bless it. Yes, we have a Bill of Rights. They don't. God bless it. But the real underlying fact is we have a Second Amendment. The Brits were completely disarmed. We're not. And that's why the police in Britain now can go door to door and arrest you for simply speaking the truth. For simply literally playing a video of what's actually taking place in your neighborhood. Freedom is dead in Britain. As far as I'm concerned, and it pains me to say this, Britain is finished. And if we're not careful this November, we're next. Jeff in Ohio. Thanks for holding, Jeff, and welcome.
Thank you for taking my call, Jeff. Appreciate your work.
My pleasure.
That goes back. You just stirred it up. I looked on the internet real quick. The pen is mightier than the sword was written by an Englishman in 1839 or something like that, which they talk about the keyboard warrior. it's the same thing. The pen is mightier than the sword. It's so apropos. But the thing I wanted to tell you was the way they're doing with Camilla. It's like vote for Camilla and get a free fry. It's just like them pushing the jab how they gaslighted us. It'll kill us if we vote for her. So I just wanted to draw that comparison.
Jeff, how do you feel the way things stand right now? Do you think she's going to win in November?
No, and I'll tell you, I think it's pretty darn healthy to expose what they're doing, because I think even with the Democratic whatever's going to start on Monday, I think it's even going to be more disaffected for us to see how desperate they get, how much more they're going to expose themselves. So I think it's a healthy way for our Constitution to expose these people, and by her not saying anything speaks volumes in itself.
I agree. I completely agree. Jeff, thank you very, very much for that call. No, they're going to have their convention on Monday. What is it now? 4 or 5 days from today. And, they're going to put on a real show. Hollywood's getting involved, Hollywood directors, Hollywood producers. This is going to be part of the rebranding and the repackaging of, the reintroduction, as they're now calling it, of Kamala Harris. And you watch. It's, in terms of propaganda, it's going to be incredible to behold what they do with this woman and how they try to transform her in front of our eyes. Jeff in Lawrence. You know what? I don't have time. Jeff, I hate to do this to you. Hang on. I'm going to come back. I'll take you, Jeff. More calls on the other side. I'm up against a hard break. Let me ask you, do you now fear that they are going to do to us here in America what the left is doing in Great Britain and around the world? 617-266-6868 is the number. Jeff in Lawrence. Thanks for holding, Jeff, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
I think you need a new nickname. Instead of Boston's Bulldozer, I think it should be Jeff Heartbreak Kuhner.
Why?
I'm just kidding with you. Because every time it seems like after your show, you're up against the brakes, But it's okay. I try to look at things very simply and break problems down into simple terms. To me, and I could be wrong about this, but I think there's a very critical reason that the Second Amendment follows the First, and that the right to bear arms is not further down in the Constitution, say at the Seventh or Eighth Amendment. And to me, they kind of go hand in hand. And the Second Amendment, without the ability to have that kind of pushback against a overbearing centralized government, the First Amendment is really in jeopardy. And I think a case in point is look at the interview that President Trump did with Elon Musk, and the backlash against that. And I think if he had going forward, I think he should do some more of those. I don't know what the right number would be, once a month or every other week or something, but I think it would be helpful to give him even more exposure. Not that he hasn't had a lot of exposure, but he's had a lot of bad exposure for the past, 9 years, I think? As soon as he came down the escalator, he was a marked man. And, I think the interview did a lot of good, and I'd like to see more of them or hear more of them.
I agree. Oh, Jeff, look, I thought it was a very, very strong interview. I think the fact that he had such a massive audience and a new audience who many of them heard him for the first time, or if they did hear him before, it was, a clip from a speech or edited. This was a chance for them to hear Trump, in his own words, with Elon, bantering, talking, going back and forth. And many of them, in fact, the overwhelming majority, came away extremely impressed. And again, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but what they kept saying over and over again is, he's such a moderate, common sense guy. It all is just such simple common sense. It's very pragmatic. It's very practical. It's clearly going to work. These two people know how to run businesses. They're very successful men. They, maybe they're not a big fan of their communication styles, both men, but you can't argue with the results. And you can see that when they talk, they're results oriented, and both of them, they deliver. And obviously Trump is more important because we have a major election coming up. But, you can see that he and Elon, this is one of the most consequential tech moguls of our lifetime. I mean, let's give Elon his due. And look, he's got the British government now threatening to have him extradited and sent to Britain and arrested and go to jail, imprisoned for simply speaking out on the riots. And it's not like he's even saying go riot. What he's saying is you keep unleashing this kind of massive, unlimited third world immigration without asking the voters. In other words, you're fundamentally transforming your country, and you get there's no voter approval for this. Well, of course there's going to be a massive backlash. What did you guys think was going to happen? And then he says, look, I think your guys are on the verge of civil war, which, by the way, is a statement of fact. And for saying the truth, you're threatening to have him extradited? In other words, call up Joe Biden, who's the mortal enemy of Elon and Kamala and Merrick Garland, and they'd love to get rid of him, and say, hey, you know what? We think we can you guys are going to put Trump behind bars. We think we can put Elon behind bars. So just send him to us, because we don't have a First Amendment and we don't have a Second Amendment. So we're going to claim that he's inciting people and that he's some kind of a terrorist. This is unbelievable. Truth is now terrorism. Truth is now incitement. While they're calling Trump a dictator, I can play you cuts of Joe Biden. He just did it again in a recent interview on CBS. He's still going on with this threat to democracy. He's a dictator. He's Hitler. He's a Klansman. He's on. So one assassination attempt wasn't enough? So the only ones inciting are them, okay? But let that go. No, I think somebody needs to remind the British, and I mean by this the British people, the British government, not the British people. Okay, this Sir Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, we won 1776, okay? So your opinion of what we say or don't say in this country really doesn't matter to us. And, you want another 1776, we're more than happy to give you another 1776. So to me, I'm looking at this and I'm like, you're now going to threaten American citizens on American soil and tell us what we can or can't say about the riots taking place in your own country? Because you guys are now, you've so enslaved yourselves to radical Islam and to the globalists that you've lost complete control over your country. And I'm not Jeff, you can look it up because you're going to say, come on, Jeff, this is impossible. You're saying this for dramatic effect. The police in London now, when they start a press conference, open it with Allahu Akbar. Allah is great. Salam alaikum. Peace be upon you, meaning peace be upon the Prophet Muhammad. Okay, these are British police officers. To be more specific, white British police officers who are now praising Allah and the Prophet Muhammad when they start a freaking press conference in London. That's what's happened to Great Britain. That's the land of Shakespeare and the Magna Carta. That's literally, and Churchill. That's what's happened now. And now they're threatening to put our citizens, and 1,000 British citizens, over 1,000, have now been arrested, not for the rioting, simply for posting stuff online that the authorities disagree with. The so-called keyboard warriors that he's mocking. So make no mistake about it. Free speech now is under assault all across the Western world, all across here. They win in November. That's why Elon is saying again and again, I am a Democrat. I am an independent. I am a moderate Democrat. Kamala Harris wins. This country is finished. She is a hardcore leftist Marxist. They don't believe in the Bill of Rights. They don't believe in the Constitution. They don't believe in these fundamental freedoms. They want to jail Trump, silence Trump. They want to jail me, silence me, and they want to jail and silence all of our supporters. Elon was basically saying what Trump is saying. They're not really after me. I mean, yes, they're after me, but they're really after you. We're just standing in the way. So, yeah, do I think Trump should do this with Elon more often? I would do it once a week. I would do it once a week. And what you're seeing now is an alliance. It's a mass anti-communist alliance. That's what's taking place in our country. You know, you have Tulsi Gabbard now who's voting for Trump. Tulsi Gabbard is, I say this respectfully, Tulsi Gabbard is a woman of the left. But she believes, she served her country. She serves in the National Guard. She's a woman of the left who still believes in the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., whatever you think about RFK is a diehard liberal Democrat. He's a man of the left. And he's saying, don't you dare vote for Kamala Harris. So what I'm saying is, whether you're from the left, whether you're from the right, whether you're a moderate Democrat, moderate Republican, an independent, whether you're from the center, I really don't care. This Harris regime, this Biden-Harris regime, this Harris-Walz ticket must be stopped. And the more we find out about both of them, the worse it gets. And the more we find out, Jeff, the more the media tries to bury it. And that's why now they have to destroy freedom of speech. Because truth now is their mortal enemy. So they are now pushing lies. Non-stop, relentless lies. And truth is the enemy of lies. That's why they have to believe in censorship. That's why they don't want people to hear different points of view. And you go back to, let's take it full circle. They heard Donald Trump in his own words, and they're like, what's so scary about this? This is our salvation as a country. Across the board, he will solve almost every problem. Every problem. He will leave this country freer, richer, wealthier, stronger, safer. What's the problem? What's the problem? That's why they have to censor him. Final word to you, Jeff.
Ahead with, working in architecture as long as I have. I've worked with so many Harvard-trained architects. Process is so important to them. The results, who knows what they could be. But that's the problem. These people, they don't think about the problems they create with their so-called solutions. And obviously, Trump has been a threat as soon as he announced his candidacy, for his first term. And, the media just went on an assassination campaign. And it came to a literal head just a few weeks ago when, they tried to take him out. And, I'm not buying that it was just either the one kid or there wasn't some government, backstory involvement with that, to try to silence our president.
Well, Jeff, it was an inside job, and it's an inside job, and almost everybody now agrees it was an inside job because the FBI is now covering up everything. The Secret Service is now covering up everything. Literally, both of them have now come out and said, we're not going to give you any more information, communications, what was said, the lead up to the assassination attempt, what happened during the assassination attempt. So there's a massive cover-up. If you're innocent, there's no reason to cover up anything. So the cover-up tells you that they were in on it. The question now is, how deep did the rot go? How many moles were there? How much of the Secret Service has been compromised? And, People have already forgotten about the assassination attempt. That, to me, is what's incredible. The short memories in this country. It's like it didn't happen. Jeff, thank you very much for that call. Okay, very, very quickly, because I want to go to the phone lines. Listen now. This is Joe Biden. Okay? This is Joe Biden. This was him, interview on CBS with Robert Costa. It doesn't end. Elon is just saying England is now being torn apart by riots. Fact. You flood a country with third world illegal immigrants, illegal aliens, and demographically, culturally, linguistically transform it. Do you know that you have many people in Britain who can't speak English? Like, literally, they're saying it's not just that you're bringing in people of different faiths and religions and cultures and, that are so alien to that of Britain. Is they go, literally, people cannot communicate with each other. You have massive communities side by side. They can't speak to each other. And this was all forced upon the people of Britain and Europe, to be honest, but the people of Britain without their consent. They never voted on this, ever. And so Elon is just saying, hey, look, what did you expect? Like, what did you think was going to happen? That's all he said. Incitement, extradite him. We want to jail him, imprison him for words that he said, which, by the way, are true. And by the way, even if they weren't true, you have the right to be wrong. You have the right to say things that are not true. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's free speech. This idea of disinformation, misinformation, there's been disinformation, misinformation going on since the beginning of time. That's what it means to live in a free society. The antidote to bad speech or false speech or incorrect speech or mendacious speech, lying speech, is good speech. That's what it's speech. It's not censorship. Hello. Listen now to Joe Biden. Okay? Now, Trump is not just a threat to democracy. No. Listen to this scumbag. Listen to this. You want to talk about incitement? Listen to this. Roll cut 7. Mike.
My words. If he wins this this election, watch what happens. It's a danger. He's a genuine danger to American security.
Okay, so now he's a threat to the whole country. Forget democracy now. To the whole country. To the whole country. And what are we going to get under Trump? Again, like I said, one assassination attempt wasn't enough? Okay, here it is. Here it is. Roll cut 8. This was just a few days ago. What is it? 2.5 weeks? 3 weeks since Trump was almost killed? Since they shot him in the ear and missed his head by, what is it, a millimeter? Roll cut 8. Mike.
When I spoke to the mom who lost her daughter as a consequence of those neo-Nazis and white supremacists come out of fields in America with torches, carrying Nazi banners, singing the same sick anti-Semitic bile that was sung in Germany in the 30s. And when her daughter was killed, the press went to the then President Trump and said, what do you think? He said, they're very fine people on both sides. And I knew then. I knew I had to do something. And that's how I decided to run. Because democracy is literally at stake.
Unbelievable. Now, that has been debunked. I can't tell you how many times. I can read the quote again for the 100th time, how he condemned the white supremacists, condemned the neo-Nazis. But no, there are fine people on both sides. Wink, wink. What he's saying is this. Trump is a Nazi. Trump wants a return to the 1930s, i.e. Hitler. Hitler! I.e., let me tell you the subtext. Kill him. Kill somebody. Can somebody, this time, don't miss. Okay? Because if he comes in, it's all over. Our society, our freedoms, no more elections, no more, hell, nobody's safe under this guy. Here's one more. If he didn't make his intent clear, now he's making it really clear. Roll cut 8A, Mike.
And then he evidenced everything that we thought. January 6th, when attack on the Capitol, he talked about now, because he now talks about making sure they're all let out of prison. They're going to pardon them. Think of this. Every other time the Ku Klux Klan's been involved, they wore hoods so they're not identified. Under his presidency, they came out of those woods with no hoods, knowing they had an ally. That's how I read it. They knew they had an ally in the White House. And he stepped up for them.
You disgusting, I'm sorry, you POS. I'm sorry. It's not pleasant to listen to me insult somebody like this. I understand, but they're going to get him killed. They're going to get him killed. Here's what he's saying. The guy is Nazi, white supremacist, KKK scum. Scum. That's what he's saying. Now, coming from a guy like Joe Biden, who's used the N-word how many times? Who literally, when he was a senator, palled around with Southern segregationists? Who, again, literally spoke at the funeral and eulogized a former Grand Cyclops of the Ku Klux Klan, Robert Byrd. This coming from the same party now that is infested with anti-Semites, pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinians, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, AOC, who openly championed the massacres of October 7th, who in fact they're so anti-Semitic that the person that overthrew him, and that's what it was a coup, Kamala Harris, couldn't pick a Jew to be her running mate, Josh Shapiro, because the anti-Semites in his party said, he's too Jewish, too pro-Israel, too Jewish. And he's going on about the KKK? And he's going on about Trump being the racist? You can't make this stuff up. That's why, in the end, nobody feels sorry for this scumbag. No one divided us more than Joe Biden. No one polarized us more than Joe Biden. I'll tell you what he's saying. That over half the country is KKK. If you're a Trump supporter, you're KKK, except you're KKK without the hood. Now, you want to talk about incitement. You want to talk about whipping up hatred. I'm using now the terms used by that police commissioner in London and the prime minister, Sir Keir Starmer. So how come we don't censor Joe Biden? How come CBS didn't censor this for hate speech and misinformation and disinformation? You phonies, you frauds, you. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, this is from 516. Jeff, if Biden were held to the same standards as British citizens for his rants about Trump, he'd be arrested for incitement. Bingo. That's why the Brits and the left in general are playing with some serious fire. It's a two-edged sword. You want to start going down this road about hate speech, misinformation, disinformation, locking people up for posts they put up on social media? Believe me, a lot of Democrats, starting with Joey, would be the first one put behind bars. Tony in Florida. Thanks for holding, Tony, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff, my fellow patriot. How are you today?
Very good. How are you, Tony?
Good, thanks, Jeff. Jeff, I have come up with, and I know President Trump's people listen to your show religiously, which is great. You're getting such great exposure, Jeff, and you do a great job. I have, for President Trump, the best strategy he could use right now. We are less than 3 months away from this election, and it's going to be decided with the 7 swing states, 7 battleground states, Jeff. And we're looking at Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and North Carolina. What I'm calling for now, and he's going to be in North Carolina today and Pennsylvania on Saturday. What I'm calling for now is ground and pound, ground and pound, ground and pound, policy, 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 a 7-day-a-week rally rotation. Don't make it about what these two radicals, Harris and Walz, are going to do. Make it about what President Trump's going to do. With that strategy, he wins this election in a landslide, and that's what the American people care about. His policies, what he's going to do, overwhelm the enemy, overwhelm the left with so many rallies every day that they will not have a chance. And I believe that's the best strategy. We're less than 2 months away. This is really an emergency for this country, Jeff. I truly believe that.
Well, Tony, just to piggyback off of what you're saying, and I completely agree with you, I'm not a big fan of hers at all, Nikki Haley, but apparently she was on Brett Baier last night. And the only reason why I know that is because Grace saw the interview and she taped it. And she said, Jeff, you got to hear Nikki Haley. She goes, I know a stop clock is right twice a day. Well, this time the stop clock is right, twice a day. This is the time the stop clock is right. And so I heard her interview, and I got to say, it was very good. I'm not a fan of hers. I want to stress that again. But the point that she was making is, and I agree completely, is that Trump and Vance have to make a much more serious shift in strategy and forget about personality, forget about name calling, just forget about all of that and just stick to the issues and to policies. Exactly what you just said. What am I going to do for this country? How am I going to lower inflation, food, groceries, gas? How am I going to secure the border, begin mass deportations by the millions? How am I going to end the war in Ukraine? How am I going to end this war in the Middle East? How am I going to bring down crime? In other words, things that affect people on a day-to-day level. And Trump has an ace in the hole. He's got such a powerful argument. It's almost an incontrovertible argument. I did it already. The greatest problem that, and in a sense, Trump is the incumbent. He's not the incumbent. Kamala Harris is the incumbent. I know Biden is technically the president, but it really is the Biden-Harris regime. In fact, Biden yesterday, he thought he was praising her, but he really screwed her. He really shafted her. Because he's saying, oh, no, my policies were her policies. He openly said it. He said, no, all of my economic policies, all of my policies, no, that was Kamala and me. We did all that together. In other words, like, she owns what I did. So she's the incumbent. Now, the biggest challenge the non-incumbent always has in every election is, well, how can we trust you? How can we believe you're actually going to achieve what you say you're going to achieve? Trump doesn't have that problem because he's a former president. I did it already. Don't take my word for it. Look at my first term. I brought inflation to 1%. I'll do it again. I had gas at $1.87 a gallon. I'll do it again. I had the most secure border in the history of the United States. I'll do it again. I put Putin in a box. I'll do it again. I put Iran in a box. I'll do it again. So he has a vision for the country that's going to uplift all of us, but he's also got a record of achievement, concrete achievements that he can run on. Now, what I don't understand, if you watch his rallies, look, they're great, they're entertaining, his energy and his interaction with the crowd, I mean, it's incredible. It really is. But you almost forget that he was president because he spends such little time on his actual achievements. And I'm thinking, like, no, that's like a secret. I mean, it's game, set, and match. That's your secret weapon. And I would use that over and over and over and over again. And Tony, I think if he runs this kind of a campaign, he's going to be invincible. I mean, he's a juggernaut. He's an absolute juggernaut. So to me, leave all that other stuff out. Run on the issues, run on policy, run on your record, and the country is yours. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me ask you, it is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. That's Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. Mario's. So, Kamala Harris. Did Biden make a big mistake in agreeing to have Kamala Harris replace him as the nominee? I'm just curious. Though it's been, what is it now, 3 weeks since Biden was overthrown in that coup. He then went out and said he's withdrawing from the race. He had then endorsed Kamala Harris. Did he do the right thing or did he do the wrong thing? Now, to me, it depends on the perspective you're looking at it from. If you're looking at it from the perspective of the country, I think it was a disaster, because I think Kamala Harris is a disaster. But if you're looking at it from the Democrats' point of view, they were going to go down in an absolute landslide under Joe Biden. He was going to get shellacked, destroyed. Now, by going with Kamala Harris, she's gotten this honeymoon. The media has completely rallied around her. They've turned her into something nobody can recognize. This is now her moment, as Time magazine puts it. And now they're going to try to ride this wave of propaganda. And that's what it is. It's regime propaganda all the way to victory in November. And so my question to you, did Biden make a mistake? Did he do the wrong thing in agreeing to have Kamala Harris be his replacement? A, yes. B, no. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in National ER. You can also vote via X, very active on X. My handle there, at the Kuhner Report, all one word, Kuhn as in National ER. Aaron in Idaho. Thanks for holding, Aaron, and welcome.
Jeff, you asked if I'm frightened over the free speech stuff. I have never been more scared than the last week with the British clamping down and arresting their citizens over Twitter and Facebook posts. But, Jeff, I called you 4 years ago in 2020, and I warned you about the COVID censorship, that it was just to get their foot in the door for something bigger. But what angers me is that we treated COVID like it was all just a bad dream. We let them get away with COVID censorship, and now here we are with people going to jail over Facebook posts. Look what happened in Canada, where those truck drivers were peacefully protesting, and the government labeled them domestic terrorists. But what happened? The Canadians eventually gave up. They surrendered. And what scares me is a week from now, a month from now, I think the Conservatives in England, they're going to do the same thing. We're going to say, oh, to heck with this. We surrender. We're scared. Don't send us to jail. To answer your question, did Biden make the right or wrong decision with Kamala? Jeff, I work very close near the college. The Democrats, I have not seen them this excited since the dear leader Barack Obama. I have liberal friends. One of my roommates is a Democrat, and he said it was the answer to his prayers to get rid of Biden. The fact that she's running a generic campaign is just what the doctor ordered. It worked for Obama. Nobody knew who he was, so they dropped him in. Biden was in the basement. It worked. They're trying to do that, with Kamala Harris. And what upsets me is I talked to a college girl recently, and she said, oh, I'm excited to vote for Kamala. I was like, well, where does she stand on the issues? And she literally said this to me. I was like, all I care about is that she's pro-abortion and she's a woman. I was like, well, on other issues, where does she stand? I don't care. She's a woman and she's pro-abortion. I don't need to know any other issues about her. and I'm just shaking my head. With that, here's why I'm panicking, Jeff. Here's why I am panicking. And please don't tell me that we're going to win a landslide and Trump's going to make everything all better. Yesterday was primary day in Wisconsin and Minnesota. Did you see the numbers? Barely 100,000 Republicans voted. The Democrats, it was like 300,000, 400,000. For every Republican who voted last night in Wisconsin, 4 Democrats voted. Why are conservatives staying home? Why are we not voting? We're going into the Soviet communist United States. We still won't vote. We're still staying home. Again, one of the reasons why we lost the 2022 midterm elections is 20 million people who voted for Trump in 2020 stayed home in 2022. Jeff, I told you the last time I called. We have a Democrat mayor and a Democrat city council in Boise, Idaho, because only 20,000 Republicans got off their butt and voted. Like, what is it going to take for us to get out and vote? Look, I got to ask you one more question, Jeff. What has happened to Matt Drudge? I look at the Drudge report, and, he's got J.D. Vance in drag.
Oh, yeah, no. He sold out. He sold out, Aaron. Matt Drudge sold out a long, long, long time ago. I never read his site. I used to read it a lot. I haven't read his site in years. I mean, I think, 4, 5, 6 years now. So, to me, I don't pay any attention to Drudge at all. But no, let's leave Drudge alone for a second, Aaron. To me, the bigger point is what you're raising, which is that Republicans are staying home. You're right. They didn't turn out in Minnesota. They didn't turn out in Wisconsin. Voter turnout was low in 2022. And, if we stay home this November, it's over. And I'm sorry. No one can blame the candidate this time. No one's going to say we didn't have a great candidate to choose. We didn't have someone who could really fix all the problems of the country. We did. Look, the 4 years under Trump were maybe some of the best years of my entire life. I'm talking now from an economic point of view, a security point of view, in every way. The country almost, I don't think, ever did better, at least not in 40, 50 years than they did under Trump. By every indication, every major indicator, healthcare, crime, upward mobility, wages, the economic growth, security, the border, peace around the world. I mean, I could just write that, Supreme Court justices. Look, I never thought Roe v. Wade would be overturned. Never in my lifetime. He did it. He did it. So what's amazing is look at the promises that he made in 2016. It is incredible how many he fulfilled. It's almost supernatural. So to me, I look at those 4 years and I say, if you don't want them again, you're crazy. I mean, really, you're crazy, especially compared to what we've had under Biden-Harris. So if people are not going to go out and vote, then I'm sorry, they have no one to blame but themselves. And, Aaron, I understand it's very upsetting because you seem very upset this morning. But, in the end, it's out of your control. How other people behave and what they do, you can't control that. All you can control is you. And all you can control is what you do. And if you do the right thing, that's all you can do. And you can look at yourself in the mirror and be proud. And when you meet your maker, you can stand tall and say, I did what I had to do. That's on someone else's conscience, not yours. And that's the way I look at it. So I'm going to do everything I can to help Trump win. I'm going to urge people to vote for Trump. I'm going to try to inspire people to vote for Trump. I'm going to try to persuade people to vote for Trump. But in the end, if people don't want to get up off their rear ends and, I'm not even saying vote for the country. I'm not even saying vote it for out of patriotism. I'm telling you, vote out of your own self-interest. That's all. I'm not asking you to do something superhuman. Just vote your self-interest. You want lower food? Go vote. Lower groceries? Go vote. Lower cost of living? Go vote. Lower gas? Go vote. You want to be safe on the streets? Here, up in Coney Island. What was it? This was yesterday or 2 days ago. A woman was raped at knife point by an illegal alien, while her boyfriend was beaten with a pipe by another illegal alien. Now, that's for you. You don't want safe streets and safe neighborhoods. I don't know what to tell you. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, Dr. Grace is warming up in the bullpen. She's got an absolutely outstanding column for you today. You're going to want to hear this hit. It's a complete expose of Tim Walz. Some of this stuff is going to shock you. So she's going to be on in about, 8 minutes. So trust me, you don't want to miss it. But first, before I get to Fran and Lowell, here is a black Philadelphia woman. And I think this is what's going to really decide the election in Trump's favor. She's part of a panel on NBC. Listen to her as this poor woman, single mother, is fighting back tears, describing her struggles with inflation. And this is the plight of millions and millions and millions of Americans. Roll cut 13, Mike.
How hard has inflation hit you?
It hit me hard. It's hitting me hard.
What do you blame for it?
I blame the federal government at this point. If a working class mom who works as a paralegal cannot buy a $2 bell pepper because it's now $5, imagine a mother living on food stamps. Imagine a mother who's making minimum wage trying to feed children. They're killing us without killing us. If you understand that. They're killing us without telling us they're killing us. They're hurting people in ways that they can't help themselves. It's either feed my child or how about feed my children and I don't, but I have to go work.
It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. And that's the message I think Trump needs to hammer again and again and again. Fran in Lowell. Thanks for holding, Fran, and welcome.
Thank you, and I want to say initially that I feel exactly as your last caller, except I'm not expressing it quite the same. But I'm the one who's written to you about this magazine, Fast Company. I don't know if you've had a chance to read it. This current issue has just the kind of people in it that we are not reaching at all, that Trump has missed the boat. Even the editor has a snide remark about Trump in this particular issue. The magazine, as I said, is called Fast Company. It appeals to pretty much the young Zuckerbergs of this nation, and there's plenty of them, and they are bright, and they are articulate, and we are not reaching them at all. Just the fact that Trump is the age he is for them already a closed door. I can see that for many of them, they don't relate to the older people at all. And when you use the phrase common sense, which to me means a great deal, it's a phrase that has no meaning whatsoever. That if you say to a 22-year-old, or I would like to know a 22-year-old who speaks to his friends and uses the phrase common sense. I don't think there is one, because that to me, that's to them, that means nothing. We have a bit of a common sense because we've seen some history. We have an idea of what used to be common thought and common shared values, but it isn't anymore. So you can't even use the word common sense and expect that people understand what you're saying, only if you're above a certain age group. But this age group is not buying that. And we have a very large group of movers and shakers that are getting people to the polls. So if you really have the ear of Donald Trump in any fashion, he has got to get somebodies in that age group and of that bright, articulate group that are activists on his side. They do not relate at all, and we're losing them, but they are going to the polls. So it means a great deal. And in states like ours in Massachusetts, where you can say it's a given that probably every Republican is going to vote, except there aren't any Republicans to go to vote, or there's so few of them that it really doesn't matter. Well, there's no way to get more of them, or to get them away even from their Democratic stance or their independent stance, unless we start to speak to them on their own level or at whatever level that stakes. And I know Trump has the young people in his own family that should be able to find. Let's find the young Elon Musks of 20 years ago, find them now and get them on Trump's side before it's too late. Because many of them are relating to Kamala simply because she's younger. I mean, she's a complete idiot, but she's younger, and they relate to that. That is really scary to have somebody come into office merely because she's a few years younger. And this is what could happen. And I fear that it will happen. I see it happening already. And so I don't know what else you can say to him, but he has got to quickly get some of those people on his side.
Well, Fran, I do know that they have now what are called conservative Gen Z influencers. That's the term that they use. But these are, people who are in their 20s, who are very active on social media. They're prominent influencers. People watch them, listen to them, and they're pushing very hard to try to convince young people to vote for Trump. But, Fran, there's a certain point where you can only make an appeal as best as you can. And look, Trump is offering them a future. If they want a real job, vote for Trump. If they want to be able to buy a home one day, vote for Trump. If they don't want to be displaced by an illegal, vote for Trump. There's a certain point where I can only give you your self-interest, but if you don't want to listen to your self-interest, then there's just nothing we can do. I mean, if you're just so brainwashed and so indoctrinated that all you care about is the fact that Kamala Harris is 59 years old, and by the way, I'm 54, I'm going to be 55 in a few weeks, to me, that's middle-aged. 59 is middle-aged. How is that suddenly young? 59 is not young. She's not 25, she's 59. So you can relate to a 59-year-old, but you can't relate to a 78-year-old successful businessman and former president who was the host of The Apprentice and The Celebrity Apprentice and who's a celebrity in his own right. I mean, some of it, this goes over my head. But, he's got rappers, he's got celebrities or singers going out there for Trump, trying to reach young people, influencers. But, there's a certain point where I say to you, hey, look, you've got no future with Kamala. None. You're going to have massive inflation. You're going to have no job. You're going to be living with your parents. You won't be able to afford rent, forget a home. And you're probably not going to have much of a country left to live in. And you're going to probably go bankrupt. The whole country is going to go bankrupt. So you're going to live essentially in Venezuela. Now, if you like living in Venezuela, then vote for Kamala. But if all you care about is that she's 59, she's a woman, and she's half Indian, half black, or half Jamaican, or whatever, basically her plumbing and the color of her skin, I can't help you. I mean, I'm sorry, I can't help you. After a while, life is an IQ test. And if your IQ is that low, that you think that that's the most important thing is that she's a woman and she supports abortion, and that's it, well, then I'm sorry, you get everything that you deserve. So, there's a certain point you can take the horse to water, but you can't force the horse to drink the water. So all we can do is take him to the water and see what happens. So, fingers crossed. That's all I can say. Fran, thank you very, very much for that call. Tom in Framingham. Thanks for holding, Tom, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. I see here the European Union Commissioner. You talked about this yesterday, but I just want to bring it up. The European Union Commissioner for the Internal Market, Thierry Breton, warned Musk that he and his platform could be punished if the ex-owner's conversations with Trump ventured into territory the EU deemed hateful or misleading. The European Union Commission backed away, distanced themselves from his letter, denying Breton received the proper permissions from its leader, President Ursula von der Leyen. This sounds to me like a classic European hit and run. I don't think I think they intended this thing to go out, and of course once the interview went over X, they didn't want to be perceived as interfering in U.S. elections like they did in 2016. I think more as much as American elitists resented the fact that we got to pick our own president in 2016, I think the Europeans resent it even more. I really think they think they should have a say in picking our president. One other thing I was going to say is if I'm Trump, I do not do a debate on ABC. There's no way. There's no way that I'd sit there and subject myself again to Martha Raddatz interrupting him, saying, "Sir, you're not answering my question. I insist you answer my questions," like she did back there in 2016.
Oh, it's a trap. No, you're completely right. Look, the debate on ABC News is a trap. That's why Kamala agreed to it. And I'm telling you, they're going to give her the questions ahead of time. The whole thing is going to, on her part, it's going to be completely scripted. So Trump is going to be walking into the lion's den again. Now, as for the EU, because you've got Grace on the line, so I'm just going to make it very quick. You're completely right. It was a hit and run. They wanted to stop it. They threatened Elon, and then it blew up in their face. And now they're trying to backtrack. But there's no question the European Union engaged in direct foreign election interference. Again, they're trying to sway and influence the election against Trump in favor of Kamala. So we don't need any lectures from them or anybody else on democracy or freedom, because the only ones now that are the enemy of democracy is them. And I don't want to hear the Democrats ever go on again about Russia collusion. You have the EU colluding with Kamala. You have the Iranians. You have the Chinese. You have the Russians. All of them have now said they're interfering in our elections in order to prevent Trump from winning. And notice now they're not screaming bloody murder about collusion or election interference. Suddenly now, when our enemies interfere in our elections to get a Democrat elected, it's all fine. Then it's no problem. Okay, thank you very much for that call, Tom. Joining me now, as she always does at this time, Dr. Grace, putting liberals in their place. You're really going to want to hear this hit, trust me. Grace Vuoto. She's got a column up. I'm urging all of you to read it. It's an outstanding column. Governor Tim Walz, Enemy of Democracy. The title itself says it all. It's brilliantly written, extremely well argued, a lot of facts in it, many of it you're probably not even aware of. You can go to WRKO.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in National ER to read it, WRKO.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in National ER. Dr. Grace, how are you?
I am very well. Thank you, Jeff.
Congratulations on your column. I think you hit it out of the park. I've never seen anyone dismantle and expose Walz, the Marxist from Minnesota, Tampon Tim, the way you did. And what you really highlight is that he's an authoritarian leftist who clearly doesn't care for freedom, liberty, property rights, the Constitution in any way, shape, and form. And I want to play a clip and get your reaction. During the COVID lockdowns, he had some of the most restrictive, authoritarian lockdowns in the entire country. He was savage. I mean, this was a dictator. And he governed like a dictator. And he ordered everyone to stay at home. In fact, as you point out, he set up a snitch line to make sure that if anybody even ventured outside their home, neighbor could spy on neighbor, as they used to do in East Germany. Well, listen now to this. This is the sound of Minneapolis police enforcing his curfew, shooting residents who are outside on their own porch with paintballs, telling them, get back in the house. Remember, they're just outside in their own home, on their own porch, breathing fresh air. No one's going to get COVID outside breathing fresh air. Instead, he unleashed the police, and they were shooting at these residents with paintballs. Roll cut 12, Mike.
This is.
Get your health now! Let's go! Light him up! Go inside now! Get in the hill!
Get in!
This guy's an animal. No, really, this guy is a Stalinist. He is a communist, totalitarian Stalinist. There's no other words to describe him. Am I wrong?
Well, Jeff, look, there was a key moment in this nation where we could see who will defend freedom when it's tough to defend freedom, when it's challenging to defend freedom. And Governor Walz caved. He caved to every pandemic fashion. And it just shows you that for him, individual rights, property rights, these are not sacred principles the way you and me and the rest of the audience in your that listens to you, we hold these rights as sacred. We believe that that's the bedrock of American liberty. For him, when it was fashionable, he trampled over all these rights, and he bankrupted those who resisted him, especially women, female business owners. Many of them said, we can't survive your restrictions. He didn't care. There was litigation after litigation. He even jailed them if they defied him. So he is not a defender of the Constitution, and it is a joke that he and Harris are pretending that they are the ones who protect freedom.
I want you to listen now. You know his record. He encouraged BLM to riot, to loot, to plunder. In fact, he didn't order the National Guard to do anything for 5 days. They stood by and watched as they burned much of that city to the ground, including a police precinct. This is a Minnesota State Senate hearing, July 2020. Sergeant Anna Hedberg and Officer Rich Walker. And they're directly talking about Governor Walz's decisions during these Black Lives Matter riots, telling them, ordering them, stand down, give up your precinct, let the mob burn it all down. Roll cut 18, Mike.
To watch them go through that was so heartbreaking. To know that they could have died because we were not allowed to respond the way that we have been trained to respond. I heard the governor say, give it up. It wasn't directly to me, it was through a phone call. How the governor says, give up the precinct. I mean, that's demoralizing for this whole state.
I've never been more broken as a police officer than I was to watch our leaders give up on our home.
This is the man that now the Democrats want to be the next vice president of the United States. One heartbeat away from the presidency. What say you, Grace?
Yeah, that's right, Jeff. Listen to the heartbreaking words of those people. He was willing to give up territory. He easily gave up the rights of citizens. Whenever the going gets tough, you can't rely on Tim Walz to defend democracy or to defend freedom. In fact, he becomes more and more tyrannical. If given enough rope, he takes that rope to strangle the rights of his citizens. So he is a really shocking choice, and it reveals a great deal about Harris, that this is the direction that she went in. It shows me she does not care about freedom. She does not care about individual liberty, and certainly not about business owners or property owners, because those rights, especially property and business rights, they protect all the other rights that we hold dear. With these people, anything can happen if they are elected.
We got about a minute left, Grace. Is this the most left-wing presidential ticket in American history? And are we now looking at literally two communists, both Tim Walz and Kamala Harris, as the presidential and vice presidential nominees?
They are by far the most left-wing ticket ever presented to the public. And what is extremely alarming is at the same time we are experiencing the biggest snow job on the people ever. Increasingly, they're going to try to present her as a moderate, and even him. They're trying to tell us he was a moderate at some points during his career. No, this is a very distressing ticket, and what Trump and the entire party has to focus on is how easily they threw away the Constitution like it was a piece of trash. They did it once, they're going to do it again.
Dr. Grace putting liberals in their place. Grace Vuoto, by the way, my better half, my wonderful wife. Full disclosure, check out her brilliant column, Governor Tim Walz, Enemy of Democracy. You can read it right now, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in National ER, wrko.com/Kuhner. Grace, congratulations on a phenomenal job. 617-266-6868 is the number. Mike in Brighton. Thanks for holding, Mike, and welcome.
Morning, Jeff.
Hi, Mike.
I think you have it backwards. This British press / government trying to circumvent our press and our rights from Britain has started way back when Trump was in office, and they ran the Steele dossier through there. They ran all of the counter Trump information through foreign governments. Any of the information that came in for his impeachments came through foreign governments or foreign phone calls or foreign information. The alphabet soups were running those organizations, the FBI, the CIA, Homeland Security, you name it. They were all running everything through foreign governments to circumvent the United States laws. Well, that's what they're doing here. They're using the same playbook. They did it like one of the previous callers said about the truckers up in Canada. Biden issued that order through Trudeau to squelch that any way he possibly could. But it's not Biden that was doing the calling. It's the paymasters above him who put him in office. It's the same thing here. They lost Elon Musk and X, better known as Facebook, not Facebook, the other one. They lost him and lost control of all the information coming through. So they no longer had their monopoly on the misinformation campaigns, like for the elections and for the Canadian truckers fight against the vaccinations. They lost that foothold. So now they're trying to circumvent it from a different area. They're coming. The information's coming, or the requests for the shutdowns and the censorship, and these laws that are being created in other countries are coming from the United States. It's our internal government reaching out to the foreign government so that they turn around and can turn around and attack a U.S. citizen here because they can't control it publicly here. They've lost that control by Elon Musk doing it, and this is a double hit. This is a hit on Elon. This is a hit on Trump. And it's a hit on the American people. They're circumventing. They're trying to get rid of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, by way of offshooting it out of the country and bringing it back into the country by way of a law from another country. This should have been shut down, slammed, and the United States government should have turned around and shut up any aid to any country that does this. But that's not what this organization and this government is right now. Trump getting in will probably do that. But it's all coming from internal.
Oh, there's no question. Oh, no, Mike, you're dead on. I think you're absolutely dead on. No, look, there's no question. I mean, I'm couching it more in a kind of a philosophical way. You're going into the nuts and bolts of it, and you're completely right. I'm just looking at it from the media is calling for censorship. The Democrats are calling for censorship. The Biden White House and Kamala is calling for censorship. The British left-wing Labour government is calling for censorship. The police now in Britain are openly calling for censorship. The European Union is calling for censorship. So, I was just making a larger philosophical or ideological point. The left no longer believes in free speech. The left is at war with freedom of expression, free speech, yet we're the enemies of democracy. I mean, the hypocrisy here is so thick you can choke on it. But your larger point, your political or your practical point is completely correct. This is all coming from the deep state. This is all our ruling class. You know, the swamp, the uniparty, the establishment, the Washington cartel. I mean, any phrase, any term you want to use. They're the ones now who say we have to overthrow the Constitution. And that's why they look at Elon Musk and they look at Donald Trump as enemies number one and number two. Because you're right, Elon committed the most unpardonable sin. He broke their monopoly. He broke the left's monopoly and the deep state's monopoly on social media. They had Twitter, which was huge. They had Facebook. They still do. Instagram, TikTok, Google. They had it all. And I will never, never forget what happened under COVID. Ever. I will take this to my grave. The mass violation of civil liberties. In fact, the greatest violation of civil liberties in the history of the United States. There's no question. No question. They threatened us with stay-at-home orders. They threatened us with the loss of our jobs, our employment, the ability to even go to a grocery store. They shut down our businesses. They shut down our churches. I mean, they took all of our fundamental rights away from us. And to this day, this is what I find to me just mind-boggling. No one's paid the price. And I played the cut. I'm going to play it again coming in. Governor Tim Walz, when he was in Minnesota, was a modern-day Minnesota Stalin. He forced people into their homes. When they went out onto the porch, their own porch, outside breathing fresh air, he unleashed the police. They shot paintballs at American citizens, cleaning up the liberal bull. Okay, my friends, I'm going to come out and say it. I'm going to say it, and I'm going to continue to say it. You cannot put up two such pathetically weak candidates and such radically extreme left-wing candidates. And to be honest, I think now they're going for the whole enchilada. They've put up now really the most two hardcore leftists they could find. Both of these candidates, both Kamala and Tampon Tim, are to the left of Bernie Sanders. And they're going to ram them down our throats. I think it's now pretty obvious. They're not playing to win this election fair and square. You don't nominate Kamala, and you certainly don't nominate this guy. And just give me a couple more minutes, and you'll see exactly what I mean. These picks, and Walz, let's just stick to Walz for a second, okay? The Minnesota Marxist. This guy is such a whack job, is so far to the left. He is such an authoritarian. You can't possibly think that this guy would be accepted by the majority or the overwhelming majority of the American people. This is him again. This is during COVID-19. He locks the entire state down. By the way, wiped out countless businesses. Stood by and allowed Black Lives Matter to burn parts of Minneapolis to the ground, including the police precinct. And then apologized to BLM, to the rioters and looters. Now he's issued, no one's going to school. The churches are closed. Businesses have gone under, except for the big box chains. And by the way, his favorite toy store, he had a favorite toy store. The toy store was allowed to stay open, like in good communist fashion. They're very arbitrary. But every other business, that had to stay closed, except for the big box chains who contribute to his campaign and his election. He now issues a stay-at-home order. The snitch line is set up. Neighbor is spying on neighbor. But that's not enough. People can't live inside. They just can't every day, all day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. People are desperate to get some fresh air. So they're in their own homes, on their own porches, outside. You can't transmit COVID outside. It's impossible. They're outside on their own porch. He establishes a curfew. The curfew is you have to be indoors. If you're on the porches, he's going to sick the police on you. Listen to this. This is Minneapolis police, also state Minnesota police. Now they're shooting residents with paintballs, telling them it's like 8 o'clock at night. Get back in the house. You're not allowed to breathe fresh air on your property, on your porch, on your house. Roll cut 12, Mike.
This is...
Get in your house now! Let's go! Light him up! Go inside now! Get in the house!
Get in!
These are jackbooted thugs. And Trump is the enemy of democracy. Are you kidding me? Trump is the Hitler. Are you kidding me? Okay, and by the way, this happened all over Minnesota. This isn't just a one incident. Now, this time it's paintballs. What do you think is going to happen in a couple of years? Next, it's going to be rubber bullets. And then when it's not rubber bullets, it's going to be live ammunition, my friends. Let's not kid each other. That's the kind of people Kamala and Tim Walz are. Now, on top of all of this, you can't make it up. You can't make this up. On multiple occasions, at least 5 times, he was spotted with a radical Islamic extremist imam, a cleric, Imam Assad Zaman. And you may say, Jeff, who the hell is Assad Zaman? Assad Zaman is the head of an organization called the Muslim American Society of Minnesota. He supports Sharia law. He doesn't just support Sharia law. He openly celebrated and supported the October 7 massacres of Jews and Israelis by Hamas. He welcomed it. The more Jews dead, the better. The more that were beheaded and slaughtered, the better. He's an open champion of Hamas. Tim Walz and Assad Zaman met at numerous functions. In fact, not only did they meet at numerous functions, Zaman delivered the invocation for one of Walz's events. Assad Zaman glorifies Hitler. Literally glorifies Hitler. He's the guy that was passing along a link to a neo-Nazi film that celebrates Adolf Hitler and the extermination of 6 million Jews. That's the kind of anti-Semitic neo-Nazi scumbag, an actual anti-Semitic neo-Nazi scumbag, not this fake one that these libs keep seeing everywhere. And this is what Tim Walz said about Imam Assad Zaman. His own words. This is him in 2018 where he's speaking. There's Assad Zaman. Roll cut 19. Mike.
I would like to, first of all, say thank you to Imam. I am a teacher, so when I see a master teacher, I know it. And over the time we've spent together, one of the things I've had the privilege of is seeing the things in life through the eye of a master teacher to try and get the understanding, listening today to the stories and what it means.
A master teacher. He refers to Zaman as his master teacher. This Jew-hating, anti-Semitic, Hitler-loving SOB. He's a master teacher to Tim Walz. He's a master teacher. And here's the cherry on the sundae. Because Waltz is now claiming, now they have to issue a statement because this is a huge scandal rocking the Harris-Waltz campaign. So now they've issued a statement. Well, I never had a quote-unquote personal relationship with Imam Zaman. Yeah, nobody's saying you guys slept together, okay? But it's clear you guys knew. Hell, he's your master teacher. I don't know what else to tell you. That looks like a personal relationship to me. But let that go. Tim Waltz, his administration, gave over $100,000 in government grants to guess who? The Muslim American Society of Minnesota. In plain English, they're paying his salary. He's the executive director of that organization. He's using taxpayer money to pay this Islamic extremist and Hitler lover, this Jew hater, his salary every single year. By the way, including this year. And this is the guy that she picks to be her vice presidential nominee? Oh, they're going to steal it. They're going to do everything they can to try to steal it. It's so obvious. Okay, I'm not kidding. This broke just as we were off air, just 2 minutes ago. Everything now that's coming out about Governor Tim Waltz, okay, Tampon Tim, his draconian lockdowns, now his connection with this Jew-hating, anti-Semitic, Islamist imam. She says she's proud of his record, she supports his record, and she backs everything that Tim Waltz did while he was governor of Minnesota. So there you go. I mean, how much more obvious can they make it to us of what their intentions are for this country? They're giving us the two most radical, dangerous candidates possible. And they're saying, we're going to steal it. Stop us. We dare you. Stop us. When you come out and defend what I just explained to you in the last discussed in the last 20, 30 minutes, you're not playing to win a free and fair election. I mean, this is pure insanity. No. The steal is on. And Trump better be ready, and his people better be ready to block it. Because now they're going for the whole thing, baby. Okay, this is from Marianne on Messenger. Jeff, did Tim Waltz's quote-unquote master teacher also teach him how to kill infidels, blow them up, fly planes into buildings, throw gays off of buildings, going into places like the Pulse nightclub in Orlando and shoot gays? Seems to me he learned a lot from this guy about how to hurt the American people, even if it's not exactly physical or physically. If this party wins the election, we are done. We will not survive this, nor will we come back from it. No question. No, I'll tell you what they have in common. It's the alliance of the radical left and radical Islam. They both hate America. And they both hate Jews. They hate America, they hate Israel, they hate the West, and they hate Jews. And that's why he's his quote-unquote master teacher. David in Boston. Thanks for holding, David, and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. Good morning to you. Jeff, you know how there's just lots of confusion among almost everybody, no matter where they fall in the political spectrum, but nobody seems to know who is in control of the United States government. So, anyways, you know who Iranian intelligence, you know who they believe is in control of the United States government?
Let me guess, the Jews?
No, they believe, and they really believe this, that the great global super Satan is in control of the United States government. And they believe the reason these carrier groups and everything are being sent over to the Persian Gulf and everything, because they believe that the great global super Satan cometh not but to steal, to kill, and to destroy.
Well, I mean, we're going to find out very soon. I know that Israel is on very high alert. They're anticipating that's the little Satan for the Iranians. America is the great Satan. We've sent over a dozen warships. We've now sent over multiple aircraft carriers with fighter jets. Apparently, we've sent even more assets. So it appears that Israel is bracing for a massive, massive attack from Iran. And I could play you the cut. I don't want to waste your time. Joe Biden came out and said he doesn't know if he can stop it. That's what he said. He doesn't know if he can stop this. So we're staring at a potential World War III. And that mental vegetable in the White House has no clue on how to interdict this or prevent it from happening. I mean, we're lucky if we even make it to the election. David, thank you for that call. Nick in Weymouth. Thanks for holding, Nick, and welcome.
All right, Jim. I'm sorry, Jeff. Really quickly. The Brits are no good. They have been no good since World War One. Starting with 1918, by the way, they've been involved in Iraqi oil all along. And as one of your early callers alluded to, they sent an MI6 guy to give the Christopher Seal document to the mighty McCain. He gave it to Comey. What else was going on? The Spygate. Halper, Stephen Halper, professor. Joseph Misford from Malta. Okay? What they were doing, they were working on Papadopoulos. They were working on Flynn. They were working on Carter Page, Pfizer, etc., etc. They had cell phones supplied to them by that ratburger Comey, right? He tried to hid them because they were actually supplied by the Department of Defense. The great Gina Haspel, that rat, she was a CIA director not at the time, but the director of operations in London while this global conspiracy was going on against the United States. Let's talk about the Brits today. Rotten scum that they are. I'm telling you, coming from 18 years of looking at history, right, they are one of the most prejudiced people on the face of the earth. You could throw China in there, too, and Japan as well, when they got to where they were to begin World War II, okay? We're probably up there, too, like in about number 9, number 10, but they're rotten, okay? They just had a thing on August 1st with a Taylor Swift concert. 3 little girls were stabbed to death by a Muslim. They don't want anybody talking about this or you will go to jail, okay? Also, 8 other little girls were butchered by this guy, and fortunately that they lived, okay? That's where we are with the British. And yes, they commune with us because it's the global village. The global village needs to wipe out, and Kamala, communist with a K, and that rat Waltz, a lowly E9, he should have been a little higher, okay? That's where we are. If you're living
Nick, I'm up against it. Nick, I'm up against it. But no, look, Britain is unraveling. There's no question now. But just because that was the misperception. There were 3 girls killed, 9, 7, and 6 at a Taylor Swift themed party. The initial rumors were that it was done by a Muslim. It was actually done by an immigrant from a Rwandan family. So the protests exploded initially against Muslims, but really it's now morphed into something else, which is a protest against massive immigration from the third world. Anyway, this story's not going anywhere. Bye-bye.